The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agreed to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon video. In this video, I want to show you what happens to Rhaenyra's son, Lucerys Velaryon, as well as his dragon, Arax. As you all know, in the most recent episode of House of the Dragon, we saw Aemon Targaryen fight Rhaenyra's son shortly after he mounted Vhagar. During this fight, Aemon loses his eye after Lucerys slashes him in the face with a dagger. Afterwards, we hear Aemon say one of the greatest lines from the season thus far. He says, "Do not mourn me, mother. It was a fair exchange. I may have lost an eye, but I gained a dragon." I literally threw my fist into the air in excitement as I heard him say that line. Now, it may have sounded like Aemon was not very upset about losing his eye. However, if you watch my video, you will see exactly how he will eventually get his revenge, and I must say, it's one of the most savage events during the Dance of the Dragons. How Aemon gets his revenge immediately lets us know the games are over. This is how the War of Fire and Blood officially begins. Now, unlike what's happening in Westeros right now, let me tell you about a game that's actually fun. I want to thank the sponsor of today's video and my favorite game, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, for those of you who don't know, Raid is the coolest and most addictive game out there. It features a massive universe where you get to build up your team of champions with over 600 to choose from to fight in player vs player matches or boss battles. Although the game celebrated its 3-year anniversary this year, it isn't too late for you to jump right in and start playing. All of you can use my QR code or the links below to download Raid yourself to your mobile phone or even your PC. Raid started strong from the very beginning and never slowed down. Last year, Raid added a whole new faction. The Shadowkin are a tribe of warriors from the Far East recently liberated from the reign of evil. For me, they are one of the coolest factions in the game. Another amazing addition to the game is the Hydra Clan boss. It's without a doubt the biggest, baddest, and scariest boss to ever set foot in the Talaria. This month, Raid just released a giant new feature, Awakening, and a brutal new dungeon, the Iron Twins Fortress. Now, if you're good enough to take down the Iron Twins, you'll see a huge payoff, being able to awaken your champions. Now wait, here's the big news. Raid has just released a superpowered legendary version of everybody's favorite champion, Death Knight. The whole Raid community has been waiting for this for a long time, and Ultimate Death Knight is everything we hope for. He's poised, he's powerful, he's perfect, and the best part is, everyone can get him for free. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days from now until October 27th, and you'll get Ultimate Death Knight. It's easy. You can also use the DK Rises promo code for a bunch of free items to instantly level your new strongest champion all the way to level 50 and 5-star Ascension. And there's even more. New players, use my link or scan the QR code right here and get a free starter pack worth almost $30, a free champion Tyrell, and this cool in-game loot. You will find all of your rewards right here in the inbox for the next 30 days only. Now, once you're in, you can find me in-game under the name Talking Thrones, and if you're fast, you can join my clan. All you have to do is click the link in the description, and I'll see you in the game. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Alright, now let me show you how Lucerys Velaryon and his small dragon receive a devastating and fatal blow from Aemon and his incredibly massive she-dragon Vhagar. This is something you will want to see all the way until the very end. After the death of Rhaenyra's father Viserys is when things will get very interesting. Now, for those of you who don't know, Rhaenyra was living on Dragonstone when she learns that her father had died and Alicent's son Aegon had ascended the Iron Throne. And now that we've seen Rhaenyra and Alicent's relationship disintegrate right before our very own eyes, we all know Rhaenyra will have to fight if she wants to get back what is rightfully hers. Now, Rhaenyra did have a slight advantage in the air because she had more dragons, and she also had a major advantage at sea because she had House Velaryon's fleet standing behind her. However, the army she would have on land left something to be desired. Unfortunately for Rhaenyra, Dragonstone was lightly garrisoned. There were only 30 knights, 100 crossbowmen, and 300 men-at-arms that made up Dragonstone's garrison. That would be nowhere near enough men to go up against House Hightower, let alone all of their allies as well. If Rhaenyra were ever going to get back the Iron Throne from Aegon, she knew she would need a significant amount of help. The only issue was Rhaenyra did not know who else would stand beside her now. At the beginning of House of the Dragon, we saw all the lords of Westeros swear fealty to Rhaenyra, but that was when her father was alive and before he had a male heir. Now, Daemon knew they would have to fight this war with words before they would go to battle. The lords of the great houses of Westeros held the key to victory, Daemon insisted. Their bannermen and vassals would follow where they led. Alicent and Aegon may have had the largest and richest cities in the realm under their command, but the rest of the realm's great lords had yet to declare. They were still up for grabs, and Rhaenys Targaryen was sure that Storm's End would stand with them. After all, Rhaenys was of that blood on her mother's side, and the late Lord Borman had always been the staunchest of friends. Rhaenyra was hoping she would get House Baratheon and its banners on her side. This is when Rhaenyra's eldest son Jace says that he should be the one who delivers the message. He said dragons will win the lords over faster than ravens. His little brother Lucerys Velaryon agreed, insisting that he and Jace were men, or near enough to make no matter. He also said, "Our uncle says we're strongs, but when the lords see us on Dragonback, they will know that for a lie. Only Targaryens ride dragons." Now this is when Rhaenyra said, if you go as messengers only, not as knights. You will not engage in any of the fighting. It was then decided that Jace, being the eldest, would go on the longer and more dangerous route, flying first to the Eyrie to greet with the Lady of the Vale, then to White Harbor to win over Lord Manderly, and lastly to Winterfell to win over Lord Stark. Her younger son Luke's mission would be the shorter and safer route, or so they thought. He would be flying to Storm's End, where it was expected that Boros Baratheon would give him a warm welcome. Unfortunately, the tragedy that befell Lucerys Velaryon was a devastating event that sent shockwaves throughout Westeros. When Lucerys Velaryon arrived at Storm's End in hopes of securing a great ally for his mother, he soon realized Aemon One-Eye Targaryen was already there before him. Now, Boros Baratheon, who we've met in House of the Dragon already, was a much different man than his father. A Septon said, Lord Baratheon was the wind that rages and howls and blows this way and that way. Aemon One-Eye had been uncertain what sort of welcome he would receive when he set out from King's Landing, but Storm's End welcomed him by having a feast, and hunts, and jousting as well. It seemed Lord Baratheon was willing to entertain Aemon when he arrived. After all, he did have 4 daughters who all needed a husband, and he was hoping that Aemon would choose one for his wife. You see, this is when Lord Baratheon tells Aemon how Rhaenyra had taken House Baratheon for granted for far too long. Lord Baratheon wanted a royal marriage in the offing, something he was not getting from Rhaenyra or her sons. You're about to see how this has a major effect on how Lucerys will be greeted once he enters Lord Baratheon's Great Hall. Now, we have no record of which daughter Aemon One-Eye finally decided on. It's said that Aemon and Lord Baratheon were haggling over dates and dowries on the morning Lucerys Velaryon arrived. Vhagar actually sensed his arrival first. Guardsmen who were walking the battlements of the castle's mighty walls held their weapons firmly in sudden fear when she woke with a scream that shook the very foundations of Storm's End. The incredible sound Vhagar made even scared Lucerys Velaryon's dragon Arax. Now Mushroom would have us believe that the lightning was flashing to the east and a heavy rain was falling as Lucerys leapt off his dragon with his mother's message still held firmly in his hand. He must have surely known what it meant when he saw the massive she-dragon Vhagar was already there before him. So it shouldn't have come as a surprise when Aemon One-Eye confronted him in the Round Hall, before the eyes of Lord Baratheon, his 4 daughters, the Septon, the Maester, as well as many guards and servants. As you can see, there were a number of witnesses who saw what happened next. "Look at this sad creature, my lord," Aemon had yelled out. "Little Luke Strong, the bastard." Aemon immediately starts with the disrespect. He wants a reaction out of Lucerys. He wants a fight. He wants revenge for what happened to his eye. Lucerys Velaryon addressed himself only to Lord Baratheon. He said, "Lord Boros, I've brought you a message from my mother the Queen." Aemon then said, "What you really mean is the Whore of Dragonstone." Then he grabbed the letter from Lucerys' hand, but Lord Baratheon commanded his knights to intervene. One of them brought him Rhaenyra's letter to the dais, where his lordship sat upon the throne of the Storm Kings of old. Now, no man can honestly say what Lord Baratheon was thinking at that moment. The accounts of those who were there differ markedly from one or the other. Some say Lord Baratheon was red-faced and abashed, while others say it seemed like he was relishing in the moment. Mushroom says he was drunk, while the Septon says he was fearful of what might happen next. However, everyone does agree on one thing. Everyone knows what Lord Baratheon said and did after this. After the Maester whispered Rhaenyra's message in his ear, a frown stole across Lord Baratheon's face. He scowled at Lucerys Velaryon and said, "And if I do as your mother bids, which one of my daughters will you marry?" He then gestured at the 4 daughters. Lucerys Velaryon could only blush. "My lord, I'm not free to marry," he said. I'm already set to wed my cousin, Rhaena Targaryen. I thought as much, Lord Baratheon said. Go home and tell your bitch mother that the Lord of Storm's End is not a dog that she can whistle up at need to set against her foes. Lucerys Velaryon immediately turned around and left the round hall after hearing this. That's when Aemon One-Eye drew his sword and said, "Hold on, Strong. First you must give me what you owe." He then removed the cover over his eye and flung it to the floor, revealing the sapphire that sat in his eye socket underneath. "You have a knife, just as you did then. Let me remove your eye, then you can leave. I only need one." Lucerys remembered what he had sworn to his mother. "I will not fight you," he said. "I'm here as an envoy only, not as a knight. You came here as a craven and a traitor," Aemon declared. "I will have your eye or your life." Back outside, the storm was raging. Thunder rolled across the castle, the rain fell in blinding sheets, and there was great bolts of blue-white lightning filling the sky, lighting everything as bright as day. Now it was bad weather for flying, even for a dragon, and Arax could barely stay aloft when Aemon and Vhagar began hunting him like a shark in the water. Had there been no storm, Lucerys might have been able to outfly Vhagar because Arax was a lot younger and swifter. But unfortunately, that day was as black as Aemon's heart, says Mushroom, and so the dragons met above Shipbreaker Bay. Watchers on the castle wall saw a distant blast of flame and heard a loud shriek cut right through the thunder. Then, the dragons were locked together, lightning crackling all around them. Vhagar was 5 times the size of her foe, the hardened survivor of 100 battles. If the dragons did fight, it would not have lasted for very long. Arax fell from the sky broken to be swallowed by the storm-lashed waters of the bay. His head and neck washed up beneath the cliffs of Storm's End 3 days later to make a feast for the crabs and seagulls. Mushroom says Lucerys Velaryon's lifeless body washed up as well, and Aemon cut out his eyes and gave them to Lord Baratheon's daughter as a gift, but that seems excessive. Now some say Vhagar snatched Lucerys off the dragon's back and swallowed him whole. There's even some who say Lucerys survived the fall, swam to safety, but lost all memory of who he was. Thereafter, spending the rest of his days as a simple-minded fisherman. Most believe Lucerys Velaryon died with his dragon. He was 13 years of age, his body was never found, and with his death, the war of envoys and ravens and marriage alliances came to an end, and the war of fire and blood officially began. Aemon One-Eye Targaryen, who would henceforth be known as Aemon the Kinslayer to his foes, arrived back in King's Landing, having won the Alliance of Storm's End for his brother Aegon. Now, if he thought he was about to receive a hero's welcome, he was dead wrong. Alicent's flesh went white when she heard what he had done. She was also heard crying and saying, "Mother, have mercy on us all." Ser Otto was not happy about this either. He's heard to have said, "You only lost one eye, but how could you be so blind?" Aegon, however, did not share their concerns. He did welcome his brother home with a feast, and he hailed him as the true blood of the dragon, and announced that he had made a good beginning. On Dragonstone, Rhaenyra collapsed when she was told of her son Luke's death. When the Black Council met on Dragonstone to discuss how they would strike back, a raven arrived from Harrenhal. Daemon Targaryen wrote, "An eye for an eye, a son for a son."